Welcome. This video is aimed at developing greater awareness and the use of the Sky Styx in 3 root positions. The first will be kneeling, the second sitting, and the third supine. So for the kneeling position, as you I'm sure already know, we want to have the knees underneath the hips so there's simple alignment through the lower part of the body. I definitely want to have my pelvis in a level position, and from here lightly lifting through the sternum and the shoulder blades relaxing down the back body. This gives a sense of easy alignment. Of course, I have a pad underneath my knees, which at this stage of my life and for many of us is a necessity to just help protect and not irritate anything inside the knee joints. So in this basic position, I want to emphasize that lifting up through the pelvic floor and lightly lifting through the abdominal core, as well as the lift through the sternum and the dropping of the shoulder blades, are essential pieces for developing core strength, particularly the lifting of the pelvic floor. To enhance that, the Sky Styx come into play. In front, with my hands at heart height, as I press the stick down into the ground, it helps to accentuate that sense of core lift, space, and alignment. One of the results of this is there's decompression in the joints. And I want to have as much space in the joints as possible in all of my daily life activities, but particularly when I'm taking the body to a deeper level through the yoga asanas. So the first of the kneeling postures we'll take a look at is called Parigasana, the gate. Stretching my leg out to the side, directly out to the side of the body, turning my foot in at a comfortable angle so there's no strain in any of the key joints or elements of the body here. In this position here, again, getting that wonderful sense of core strength and spacious alignment. So I'll start with the stick up overhead, and holding on to the stick, I'm gently pressing my hands towards each other without letting them move, and that establishes in the upper back body a real sense of stability, but not with a clench. It's a coming down and a steadiness in the upper back body. So this is where I love to begin this. As with all the movements and asanas in this methodology, the origin of movements in the core. So I'll be turning the pelvis towards the extended leg and then lengthening through the upper core and finally bringing in the arms. So let's see what happens here. Big breath in. Exhaling, rotating the pelvis towards my extended leg. The upper body just goes along for the ride. And then energizing the upper body, lifting the sternum up and away from the pubic bone, relaxing the shoulder blades back and down. And once again, pressing the hands towards each other. Really nice side body strength, length, and stretch here. Now, to bring the sticks in at another level, to use the advantage of leverage, anchoring the foot of the stick to the ground. All the core pieces are just like they were. Here comes Sky Styx. Pressing the head of the stick out and away with the upper arm. Pressing the foot of the stick down into the ground with the lower arm. Deep, deep stability and a wonderful length. Feels really good. I can enhance this farther by walking the foot of the stick behind me, coming back to the pelvis, rolling the tailbone under, lifting up through the sternum, and coming into a gentle back bend added to the side stretch. A couple of breaths here to explore micro movements and intuitive movement inside the frame of the asana. Pardon me for a moment while I enjoy this experience. And then coming back to center, reestablishing alignment, bringing the stick back to neutral, and once again lifting it up overhead. Now we transition from Parigasana, the gate, to Ardha Mandalasana, the half circle. Again, beginning in the pelvis, tilt the pelvis to the opposite side, lift the sternum up, up, and away, slide the shoulder blades back and down. And once again, a really powerful core strength and stretch. Here comes Sky Styx. Bring the foot of the stick to the ground. Maintain core alignment and strength. Press the head of the stick away. And with the lower hand wide, press the foot of the stick down into the ground. I can explore hand positions here and expand even farther on this lateral stretch. An amazing opening between the ribs. And one more lengthening here. I'm pressing my skull towards the sticks, even as I pull the shoulder blades back and down and press out through the foot of the extended leg. One more breath in and out here. And then returning back to neutral. Big breath in. Complementary stretch, very simple. Stick comes to the front, tilt the tailbone up, press back through the hips, press forward with the hands, pull the shoulder blades to the waist, and add in those little intuitive stretches, helping your body to integrate the power of this movement. And again, press the stick down, walk the hands up, and opposite side. Pelvis is lifted through the pelvic floor and now tilting towards the extended leg. Once again, shoulder blades down, breath to the bottom of the belly, and stretching through the core of the body. Shortening the stick means pushing the hands towards each other without letting them move, pressing the stick away. Wonderful core strength here. And then bring the foot of the stick to the ground for our enhanced leverage. Here we go, pressing away with the upper arm, pressing down with the lower arm, stretching the side body open. You must have core strength here so that you're safe in these deeper movements. The Sky Styx give you enhanced opening with leverage, but if you don't have core strength in place, you could overstretch and end up hurting yourself. So pay close attention to your continuous use of pelvic floor, abdominal, and upper core strength. And coming back to neutral. That feels really good. Opposite side, Ardha Mandalasana, tilting the pelvis the opposite way, lengthening up through the sternum, pulling the shoulder blades back and down. The whole core of the body is lengthened and supported, again, from the pelvic floor. Now coming in with the Sky Styx, anchoring the foot of the stick and pressing out and away. Upper hand presses away, lower hand presses down. Complementary movements with the arms. You'll feel where your body wants to take this. Very, very lovely. And as before, you can step the foot of the stick behind you to have not only a lateral stretch, but also a rotation. I'm curling the tailbone under and pressing the hips gently forward. I'm stretching my hands away from each other without letting them move. One more breath in and out. And then come back and come back. The complementary stretch. Renewing my core strength, pressing back through the hips, forward through the skull. Shoulder blades to the waist, hands press forward, and breath stretches through the entire core of the body. A couple of friendly micro movements, an intuitive sense of where your body wants to go. And then coming back to neutral, back to my starting position. And just pausing and letting all that settle. No rush to move on to the next movement. I've got all the time in the world to digest the experience, to deepen my awareness of what's happening inside my body, and to enjoy that moment of rest and pause at the end of the dynamic energy. Continuing with kneeling, Ustrasana the camel. This is an asana that has so much openness and so much power to it. Many times I see it almost being frozen because there's this sense of rigidity that comes with trying to protect ourselves. There's a core piece I'd like to demonstrate for you that makes all the difference in the ease in the asana, and then also bringing in, of course, the use of the Sky Styx to amplify the access, the holding, and the return. So for a moment, imagine that the line of the stick represents the level line of my pelvis. For any back bend, I want to be sure that I not only have core strength in place, For this one, it's going to be 100% pelvic floor lift, 100% mula bandha, as well as the abdominal core and the upper core, the sternum lifting and the shoulder blades dropping. But the strong core lift is what helps to protect the low back and give spinal stability. So with the soft tissue of the pelvic floor lifting, here's what happens with the bony structure. I curl the tailbone under, and as I curl the tailbone under, the pubic bone lifts up. As soon as that happens, the spine following the movement is already in a gentle back bend. Once that tilt is in place, then lightly pressing the pelvis forward while lifting the sternum and pulling the shoulder blades means without really a whole lot of effort, I'm in this gentle back bend. So once again, coming back to neutral position, core strength in place, curl the tailbone under, press the hips lightly forward, lift up through the sternum, drop the shoulder blades back and down, and unclench the buttocks. If your buttocks are clenched, you're not going to get the open space you need. With Mula Bandha, pelvic floor lift in place, you don't have to have the buttocks clenched for spinal stability. It's coming right out of the perineum. So pelvic floor lifted, tailbone curls under, pelvis lightly presses forward, sternum lifts, shoulder blades go back and down. And for the root of the posture, here, 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 and here. This is Ustrasana, simply resting in the core. With that, if I want to add the distal support, of course I can come back, bring my hands to the heels. Now I'm supporting myself with the arms, and again apply those same core principles, and have either a supported camel or unsupported. So that's the root of the asana. Let's see what happens with the use of the Sky Styx. For this one, I'll bring the stick behind me, centered between my feet, and bring my hands up overhead. Same elements in place, strong core strength, curl the tailbone under, press the hips lightly forward, lift up gently through the sternum, pull the shoulder blades back and down. But now with the Sky Styx, I can press the stick down and away, and it's like having a portable wall. I can even walk my hands a short ways down the stick, and this gives this wonderful sense of distal support, much more satisfying for me than the hands on the heels. If I don't have enough of a stretch, it's simple. Walk the foot of the stick farther behind, up and out. With core strength in place, I have mobility across the joints in every position. And coming back with core strength, coming right back to neutral. And one more time, lifting and lengthening. From a back bend to a neutral position, very, very, very satisfying. Could you feel that? Felt really good to me. So taking a look at seated asanas with Sky Styx, I think we're going to find some really interesting and very, very useful applications. So in sitting position, of course, moving the flesh away from the sits bones, so there's a very, very clear sense of the feet of the pelvis, the two ischial tuberosities, anchoring down into the ground. No question about that. Pressing down through the sits bones, of course. Equal and opposite, lifting up through the pelvic floor, navel, sternum and skull, and relaxing the shoulder blades back and down. In Baddha Konasana, the bound angle, another advantage is I can press my feet towards each other, activating the adductors, which gives an extra lift up through the pelvic floor. So this gives even more support for a relaxed, lengthened, aligned torso. Bringing the Sky Styx into play, the sticks are between the arches of my feet, my hands are at heart height, and in this position here, again, as I press the stick down into the ground, notice what happens in the core of my body. It gives even more enhanced lift and length. And the joints are not locked. I want to emphasize this. This is not a rigid thing, but I have pliability across all the joints, even while pressing down into the ground. So this is the root position for Baddha Konasana. Shoulder blades are going down. Stick is pressing down. My arms are lengthening. It's very powerful across the upper body. I know it doesn't look that way, but there's a lot going on in the chest and upper back right here. So I want to take a couple of breaths and really get that sense of core alignment. And then moving into some variations here, focusing my attention down to the sits bones, rolling forward on the sits bones, of course, creates this spine tilting forward. To amplify this, pressing the navel towards the stick and pressing the sternum towards the Sky Stick and lifting it up, along with climbing my hands up, gives this possibility of movement. Navel is forward, sits bones are forward, sternum is forward and lifting even as the shoulder blades go back and down. And taking a few breaths here as always to explore intuitive micro movements at the very end of the holding pattern. Playing with that alignment of lifting the tailbone, curling the tailbone under. Beautiful massage across the low back. Very, very, very satisfying. I'm pressing the stick down, which helps give lift, and I'm pressing the Sky Stick away, which gives that forward momentum and lift. So it's a really lovely traction and even a sense of suspension through the spine. With that awareness in place, now I can come back and bring the stick up overhead. With the Sky Sticks above my head, without moving my hands, I'm pulling my hands vigorously away from each other, which really helps open up the chest and gets the shoulder blades down and back. From here, of course, I have support for blending in the supplemental movements as I like, and I'll leave it up to you to discover all kinds of wonderful ways that the basic root position can help open up your body. And one very interesting feature here is bringing the Sky Stick behind me is a wonderful alignment cue. The 3 S's touch the stick: sacrum, scapula, and skull. And with the stick moving towards vertical, I feel that I have a really very vivid kinesthetic sense of where my alignment is. And with that in place, with the use of the stick, I can now come back to that sense of alignment and have this wonderful sense of open, pliable strength here. Baddha Konasana, bound angle. Starting from the bound angle, let's move into Janu Shirshasana, the head towards knee posture. So I'm going to extend one leg, of course, and bring the other foot in at a soft angle. In this position here, what I'm intending to do is to move down the center line of my body. So here's the center line of my body. So I'm intending to bring the sternum directly forward rather than rotating and coming over the extended leg. So I want to take the rotation out of Janu Shirshasana and have it be a pure forward fold. So I'm aiming for this point here. And the Sky Sticks come in and enhance it. So let's see how this all fits together. Establishing my ABCs. And with the alignment, breath, and core strength in place, mobility across all the joints of the body. And let's see how we can move with this. Pressing the navel towards the stick, pressing the sternum towards the stick and lifting up, and pressing the Sky Stick itself down and away. I feel like my back is being lengthened by the companionship of the stick, and it gives a nice sense of stability, alignment, and leverage for the stretch. So here we go, pressing out through the extended heel while keeping all the joints of the body unlocked. Stick lengthens down and away. And as always, the element of the arc of the asana in which there's room for intuitive movement, there's room for micro movements, and there's a sense of moving into the living energy of the asana. So it's not just a stuck, rigid position, but there's this integration of form and feeling. I'll take one more breath in and out here. And then recentering over the pelvis, realigning through the core of the body, bringing the stick back, pausing for a moment. Just feel everything settling. Going to the opposite side, of course. Not too much more to say about this. In this methodology, there's a very strong emphasis on feeling our way into the position while being respectful of all of the anatomical requirements. So there is a very definite sense of alignment. There's a very definite sense of deep body breathing synchronized with movement. There's a very clear use of the pelvic floor, abdominal, and upper core of the body for strength. There's always opportunity for the joints to move. There's never any time when the joints of the body are locked. And as a result, the asana has a wonderful sense of movement, length, space, strength, stability, and fun. It feels like kind of a walk in the woods. There's new things to discover. There's new sensations to savor. There's a delightful sense of exploring what it is that the body is really asking for. And having the time to feel and be with all the different experiences that arise. One more breath in and out. And then again, moving from the pelvis, bringing the upper torso and skull into play, and bringing the stick back. The natural extension from here, as you can imagine, is moving into Paschimottanasana. Same elements as before, new awareness in the body now as we have length through the back of both legs. Everything else, pretty much the same. I have the stick leaning away from me intentionally. With the stick at an angle leaning away, when I press down and lengthen away, there's this sense of the angle of the stick helping to pull my body forward. So pressing down, pressing away with the stick, I'm not letting the stick just pull me. I'm originating the movement by rotating the pelvis, pressing the navel, pressing the sternum. That's all the core. And then the sticks are wonderful distal enhancement. Once the core position is in place, then the stick pressing down and away is a very, very powerful addition on top of the core principles. Little deeper stretch as my body warms up. I can feel that length in the spine, especially in the low back, which is just what I wanted, was that really comforting, relaxing stretch. One more breath in and out. And then moving back to neutral. Finishing up here. This is a nice completion for the asana. Stick is across the thighs. Pressing my hands lightly down gives that additional sense of spacious, aligned length. That feels good. The seated asanas have so many possibilities with the Sky Styx. I'm very excited to bring this one to you. I think you'll really find it enjoyable. In this one, we're going to be using two different variations of the stick. And the asana we'll be focusing on is Upavista Konasana, the wide-legged forward fold, and Parsva Upavita Konasana, the rotated wide-angle forward fold. So the first position I'll use is without the stick, is setting up all of the key alignment points from the core of the body. As always, flesh moving away from the sits bones pressing down into the ground. As always, pelvic floor, navel, sternum, and skull lifting, shoulder blades relaxing back and down, lightly lengthening out through the heels, letting the toes move back towards the face. And again, as always, every joint in the body is open and supple. At no time do the joints of the body get locked. So, from my core position, I'll bring the stick around to the center, and let's see how Sky Styx can bring a new dimension to this practice. So with all of my core pieces in place, I feel stable, I feel upright, I feel breathable, there's a sense of relaxation. With the hands resting at heart height, once again, pressing the stick down amplifies that sense of lifted, spacious alignment. Pressing the stick away helps to give that sense of the shoulder blades settling down into the back body. It's very beautiful that way. So I just want to take a breath or two in and out here and just settle into this starting position. Just this alone could be the complete asana. As we know, the asanas it's not a stretch contest. I'm not trying to get as far as I possibly can. That's of very little interest. What is of greatest interest, at least in my practice, is being able to come home to myself and feel like I can settle my awareness into the whole fabric of the body and be able to have that sense of listening, attunement, communication, presence, because sensations are only present in the present moment. So this whole process in one way or another is a backdoor way to just settle into the present moment and simply have meditative awareness. Rolling forward on the sits bones and rolling back. This movement does help to relax and open the hip rotators and the top of the groins. And again, rolling forward on the sits bones, now pressing the navel towards the stick lengthens my low back, pressing my sternum towards the sky stick and lifting it up really opens up the mid and upper back. And now let's see how we can enhance this. Pressing the stick down and away. You can notice once again that the stick is at a very clean angle here. So as I press down and away, it not only helps to leverage me forward, it also helps to lift me up. Pressing out through the heels without locking the joints, there's a sense of tremendous opening and space through the lower, middle, and upper body here. So let's just play with this for a few breaths. The sits bones are the origin of movement, so I'm pulsing forward and back on the sits bones. The bottom of the sits bones are shaped like a rocking chair, so it's very easy to feel and find that movement at the foundation of the pelvis. So the pelvis is rotating, the navel is pressing forward and releasing, the sternum is pressing forward up, and then the hands amplified by pressing down and away, but not so the joints are locked. I want to bring in a little cross fiber stretch here. So these little side sweeps with the stick are lovely. My body's warming up, so I want to go a little bit deeper. So I'm going to step the foot of the stick a little farther forward and let the hands slide down a little more. And now a couple of breaths here to just feel my way into the position and begin to find where the body is asking for secondary movements, intuitive modifications, deep core stretches. So having set up a really stable foundation and a safe container, now I know that I can explore these secondary movements and my body's not going to react because it's being kept safe and pliable. One more breath in and out here. And now into the rotated aspect. Beginning in the pelvis, I turn my pelvis towards the foot, bring my foot back up, turn the navel, turn the sternum and ribs, so I'm spiraling. I'm not moving like a cylinder. I'm spiraling all the way towards the extended leg, placing the foot of the stick either on the inside or the outside of the ankle, depending on your level of openness. Remember, this is not a stretch contest, so I'll keep it in here for this side. Same exact movements, rolling forward on the sits bone, navel to the sky stick, sternum lifting up and away. And everything else is exactly the same, except I now have this rotation added into the whole experience. And I do feel my body releasing here, and I do feel a sense that I'd like to go to the other side and open it up even more. A lovely variation is the outside hand sliding down, rotating the palm of the upper arm and lengthening up and adding this dimension of movement. Brings in a whole new set of sensations and experiences. One more breath in and out here. Coming back to neutral using core strength, settling right back down. Renewing that center alignment, and then coming to the opposite side. Again, I'll start with the stick on the inside of the ankle. Spiral from the pelvis through the lower, middle, and upper torso, so each segment gets its full rotation. Once I've rotated towards the foot, then rotating forward on my left sits bone, navel to the sky stick, sternum to the sky stick, and lifting up as the shoulder blades go back and down, pressing out through the heel, drawing the toes towards my face. Let's take a couple of breaths here and just settle down into the experience. It's really quite lovely. Hamstrings are getting a thankful stretch. Sciatic nerve is getting a refreshing, open, spacious channel to move in. And this sense of steady pulsing, moving right up to my edge of comfort, not causing my body to clench or lock, and coming back. And now as my body warms up, again, I'm going to place the stick on the outside of the ankle, rotating even more, spiraling even more. It's almost like my body can't get enough of this. It feels really good. And again, the outside hand sliding down, the upper hand rotating and coming up. Pressing out through both heels, open, spacious breath, nice, fun, flowing sense of energy moving. One more breath in and out, and coming on back to neutral. And we're not done yet. Second position for the stick is interesting in an entirely different way. In this position, the sky stick comes horizontal. This emphasizes the different openings in the body in an entirely different way, turning the palms up so that the shoulder blades settle down the back body. As before, rolling forward on the sits bones, pressing the navel forward, pressing the sternum forward and up as I lightly pull the sticks and drop the shoulder blades down into my hip pockets, pressing out through the heels. This one is a much more powerful sense of strength and length up through the core of the body. So let's just see what this one does. And in this one, the emphasis is on core alignment more than in the previous variation. So as I'm lightly pulling the stick towards me, the main emphasis in the core of my body is lifting up. So as I roll forward, it's almost like I'm lifting up through the crown of the head, right up into the sky. So there's this lovely, lovely sense of greater and greater long spaciousness through the core. Now I'm going to move over to my right side simply by walking my right hand over to that foot, pulling there, and then this left hand is free to open and explore a whole range of motion. I mean, come on, what could be more fun than this? And to the opposite side. Again, the movements are anchored in the pelvis, so I'm coming out of the pelvis, turning towards the foot and coming back. I hope you can get that sense that the pelvis is literally turning like a compass and coming back. Rolling forward on the sits bones, navel and sternum go forward, sternum lifts up. Rear arm is free to open and expand the spaciousness. One more breath in and out. And then coming back to neutral. One last length. And then a final little check, which is very interesting, is bring the stick back around. And let's take a moment and find where alignment is once again. The 3 S's, sacrum, scapula, skull touch. The 2 curves are there at the cervical and lumbar spine. Pressing lightly down through the stick, I'm getting an enhanced sense of lifted alignment. And you're looking at one satisfied practitioner. And in the end, simple. Press down lightly and almost effortless seated alignment. Ardha Matsyendrasana, the seated spinal twist, is such a spacious opening expansive asana, even though it appears visually to be very confined. I think one of the secrets to an effective rotation in the body is, again, to have the origin of movement down in the pelvis. In this asana, what I'll be doing is rotating away from the lengthened leg. I know generally that seemed to be a more relaxed version for it and more spacious. And when I start to bring in the Sky Styx, you'll see why we're doing it that way. So here are the fundamental sequence of steps. Beginning in the pelvis, of course, having alignment in place and breath and core strength. But beginning in the pelvis, I'm going to take the pelvis and rotate it towards my folded leg. Following that, I'll be rotating the navel towards the folded leg. Following that, I'll be rotating the ribs and sternum. Following that, the shoulders, and lastly, the neck and the skull. So from there, moving from the core of the body, I'm literally spiraling from the ground up. So you can get that sense of lower, middle, and upper torso rotation. And all of it's coming from the core, and then the hands can come in. So let's see how that works with the sticks. So establishing simple core alignment, everything feels relatively comfortable and relaxed here. I'm placing the stick on the inside of the foot and on the outside of my low back. This hand is going to come around and rest at the short end of the stick, and this hand rests on the long end of the stick. Renewing that sense of core alignment, as I just mentioned, origin of movements in the pelvis. So as I exhale, I'm turning the pelvis, the navel, the ribs, the sternum, the shoulders, and finally my face. Having taken the body as far as I can in a spiraling rotation, then I bring in the Sky Styx. With this hand resting on the stick, I can lightly press this hand back as I press the rear hand forward. The stick helps to not only increase the rotation, but it also helps give me a sense of alignment in the body. So pressing down through the sits bones, strong core strength in place, and spiraling around that core strength with the stick as a wonderful enhancement to the whole procedure. So this is the root position right here. And in fact, once this is in place, this hand can even come off. I can press from here. This hand can be completely relaxed and at ease. It can rest on the stick, wherever it feels good for you. A variation that is quite wonderful is to bring the stick up behind the shoulder blades. And in this position here, I have very, very clear sense of lifted core alignment. And this hand is, again, pressing. I can lengthen down the stick. So I can add this lovely lateral stretch right into the middle of Ardha Matsyendrasana. And it's a really exquisite feeling all through the body. This lateral shift from left to right helps to create more space for the rotation. And the stick lightly pressing against the bottom of the scapula again and again reminds me of my core alignment. I wish you could feel this. Perhaps you're doing this with me, but this sense of opening and release, space between each of the vertebrae is very, very, very lovely. One more breath in and out then, and I'm going to unrotate and come on back. Pause for a moment in Baddha Konasana. Once again, lengthen up through the core of the body. That's it. And repeat on the opposite side. Lifted, lengthened core, grounded strength, origin of movement in the pelvis. Torso is spiraling from the bottom to the middle to the top. And now the rear hand is pressing forward. The forward hand is pressing back. And the body is beginning to relax into this lovely lifted spiral. This hand can continue to enhance or just be at ease here. As my body's holding the spiral, there's an intuitive sense of wanting to open up other dimensions of this situation, moving across the sits bones, getting deep into the glutes, helping to release holding patterns around the hip joint, lifting the stick up behind the bottom of the scapula, that wonderful sense of I could just relax back into this really, really terrific support for alignment here, and even come far forward. It opens up this asana in a whole new way. And one more breath in and out. Unrotating, coming all the way back around. And a lovely place to finish is lightly pressing the stick down, that sense of easy lifted alignment. Yep, that's a spiraling twist. Paripurna Navasana, the upward facing boat, as you probably know, combines wonderful core strength with this wide open, spacious core of the body and a really stretched out pelvic floor, as well as lovely, lovely length through the back of the legs. In this approach, the Sky Styx are an essential part of it right from the beginning. So let's see what happens here. Similar to what we were just practicing with the wide-legged forward fold, the stick comes into position here. With my palm up, helps to settle the shoulder blade down the back body. Initially, this hand will be over to the side for support. I'm going to bring my heels in a little bit, turn the feet out to the sides, and from here I have easy access to lifting and lengthening the legs. Bringing the hands into position so they're shoulder width apart, renewing my core strength, pelvic floor lifting, abdominal core towards the spine. Sternum is stretching up and away from the pubic bone. Shoulder blades are back and down. And again, all the joints of the body are open and spacious. There's nothing that's jammed up here. I want that sense of power, but I want flexible stability, not anything rigid. So pressing out through the heels, drawing the toes towards the face, pulling the sky stick towards the chest, and lifting up and out with the core of the body. Wonderful, powerful stretch. For a little more core strength, I'll hold with one hand and use more abdominal core strength for this lifted, aligned, spacious center. Trading hands to bring in that open fluid movement through the upper core of the body here. And then a movement with the Sky Styx that's really, really lovely. Bringing one foot down to the ground, anchoring the foot of the stick, the other foot is lifted and lengthened. This is a really, really amazing hamstring and sciatic stretch. I'm going to slide my hand up the stick a little farther. The lower foot of the stick is anchored to the ground. And there's this very, very precise sense of stretching through the back of the lengthened, lifted leg. Wonderful, wonderful stretch. I can feel this all the way into my hip joint. And then to the opposite side, coming back to neutral, pivoting, and again coming down. So there's plenty of time for the body to stretch out, plenty of time for the muscles to warm up, so that that lifted, lengthened core strength is accessible everywhere through the body. You can see here that is so effective for creating that wonderful, spacious, growing stretch from the pelvic floor to the fontanelle. I like that. Sukhasana, the easy pose. After those core stretches, we once again come back to simple seated alignment. As always, the breath reaches to the bottom of the belly, stretches around the lower torso, front, sides, and back, mid-body, and upper body, front, sides, and back. So there's that sense of complete respiration throughout the entire thorax, throughout the entire abdominal core. And you'll even feel it moving from the pelvic floor to the fontanelle. So the whole body is breathing. To enhance this, just resting the stick across the thighs, widening my arms out, and just letting the weight of the arms settle down creates a very gentle and easy lift up through the sternum. It feels like my heart is just effortlessly rising and having the opportunity to unclench and just open here. A second variation, which I like quite a bit, is bringing the stick behind, widening the hands, palms forward, just enough that the stick is not resting on the ground. In this position here, as always, all the joints are supple, and the weight of the stick, because it's not on the ground, is very gently drawing the shoulder blades down in a very, very, very easy way. So I'll just breathe here for a very few brief rounds, and you can see that sense of the stick begins to very gradually settle down towards the ground as the muscles in the upper back just naturally lengthen. It's a gentle traction. And as the back body relaxes down, of course, the sternum is able to easily rise up. So for a few breaths here in silence, just feel how the Sky Styx help to enhance easy sitting position. I can easily feel the stick sliding down the back of the glutes. As a result of the muscles in the upper torso and the arms are very, very slowly lengthening. And the position of the body is coming into crisper alignment. So I could stay here for a long time, but I really wanted to bring this piece to you to finish up the sitting series. Coming onto my back into the supine asanas gives me the advantage of having the ground plane of the earth to support my sense of lengthened alignment. So when we're on our back, the three S's, skull, scapula, and sacrum, are touching the ground. And the two curves, one at the low back and one behind the back of the neck, are there to give that sense of buoyancy and suppleness through the core of the body. So the next two asanas we're going to take a look at on the floor is the supine star and the supine half moon. And in these positions, you'll see how the sticks up overhead give this wonderful sense of open, spacious strength and stretch and spaciousness, while at the same time the entire range of motion is constantly reinforced by the ground plane to be in easy, relaxed alignment. So let's see how this one goes. So the first thing I'll do is take a moment to feel that support of the earth for alignment. I can clearly feel the scapula touching the ground. I can clearly feel the shoulder blades touching the ground. And I want to make sure that my chin is tucked just a little bit so the back of my neck is lengthened even while supporting that cervical curve. And now bringing the sticks into my hands, I hold the Sky Stick with hands wide. And for a moment, without really moving my hands, I'm going to press my hands towards each other, and I can feel this really just cheerful sense of the shoulder blades being pulled in and down, and a great sense of stability and support all along the back body. And then again, without really moving, pulling my hands away from each other without letting them slide on the Sky Stick. And this gives a wonderful sense of open strength and length through the side body, especially through the lats. So having established that, next I'm going to widen my feet so I'm in the supine star position. And for a few breaths here, I'm going to alternate shortening the stick, my hands going towards each other, and stretching the stick, my hands pulling away from each other. And this alternating pulse is really hard to describe. There's a great sense of both relaxation and alignment, easily blended with strength and stability in the body. So I'm going to take a few moments and do this in silence so I can connect with my breath, core strength, alignment, and upper distal strength. In using the breath with this, the exhalation is the working breath. So exhaling, I'm pressing my hands towards each other. They're not moving on the stick, but I can feel that activation all the way down through my back body, buttocks, into the legs, even the soles of the feet. Equal and opposite, again as I exhale, now pulling my hands away from each other. And again, that same sense of kind of a cheerful presence, a confident strength, a sense of buoyancy and space and energy in the body. So that feels really, really lovely. Now I'm going to be moving into the supine half moon Ardha Chandrasana. So for this, I will be moving again from the pelvis, as I've mentioned many times. So I'm going to tilt the pelvis over to my left and literally walk my upper body towards my left leg. Then bring the right leg over towards the left and walk my left and right legs towards the upper body. And you can see in this position, the earth is here to remind me of my alignment. And with the core of the body in place, I can use, again, the plane of the earth to give me very precise alignment as I go through this simple range of motion. Feels really good. And adding in, as always, some intuitive movements. Here's where the stretch wants to go. Very relaxing and yet stretching and strengthening blended in. And then coming back to neutral position. And reversing to the opposite side. Feel like a caterpillar going to the side. But then I have this terrific sense of both shoulder blades against the ground. The spine is supported in alignment. The lumbar and cervical curve are there. And then walking my legs over. Maintaining that sense of easy lateral stretch. And completing, and coming back to neutral. And once again, opening up the whole shape of the body into that wonderful supine star position. And at this time, letting the stick just rest in the hands. Almost feels like I've just had a full body massage. So I think you can get a sense of how the stick and the floor together give this wonderful support for aligned, open stretch. Setu Bandhasana, the bridge. For a supine posture, it's very powerful. We not only have the support of the ground at the beginning for alignment, but once we get into the belly of the asana, there's a tremendous amount of strength in there, combined with really nice experience of mobility and flexibility all through the core of the body. And when the Sky Styx are brought into play, they really help to enhance that sense of open spaciousness at the same time as they give another level of stability, which allows more freedom of movement in the body. So let's see how this works. So coming into the starting position, with my spine lengthened on the ground, sacrum, scapula, and skull touching, lumbar and cervical curves are all in place. The stick is underneath the space behind the knees. Let me first describe how the core principles work here, and then we'll begin to bring in the Sky Styx. So as I exhale the breath, of course, I want to have my core strength in place, pelvic floor, navel, sternum and skull, walking the shoulder blades down the back body so there's that supple alignment and that sense of deep core strength. The initiating movement here is on the exhalation as the belly goes to the spine. The pelvis tilts. The pubic bone actually rolls towards the navel, and as a result, my low back lengthens out. On the in-breath, as my belly expands, the pelvis tilts the opposite way. So let's just explore that movement. Exhaling, all the core strength in place, rolling the low back to the ground, pressing down through my feet with the pelvis tilted, coming up to full height and then leveling the pelvis. In addition, my inner thighs press towards each other to enhance that sense of deep center strength. To come out of it, I'm going to tilt the pelvis and come back down, and then once again move into these pelvic tilts. So it's a very natural, very light way to move into the asana. And now enhancing it with the Sky Styx. Palms of the hands are up, stick is resting easy in position. Here we go. Exhale, roll the pubic bone towards the navel, flattening the low back. Press the feet vigorously down into the ground and lift that tilted pelvis up and then level it out. So up here there is range of motion, range of motion, range of motion available. Now let's enhance this with Sky Styx. Widening my hands, the stick is underneath my low back now. Without moving my hands, I pull them vigorously towards each other. And just as a result of that, there's a very clear sensation in my body where the shoulder blades want to walk towards the heels. It's not even something I feel I need to do. It's just a sense of responding to an urge in the body. So the shoulder blades walk down towards the heels. With this in place, there's additional upper core strength by the hands pressing towards each other. That gives me more of a sense of freedom of movement and safety and pliability here, and a lovely feeling that I can go places, shortening the stick, pulling the hands towards each other. There's a sense of a really movable bridge here. Then bringing the hands closer together. Now, without letting the hands move, pulling them away from each other gives a deep stretch across the upper chest. So in this position, pulling the hands away from each other gives a much more profound sense of opening across the upper torso. And with that, there's a sense of increased lift, openness, and spaciousness, a feeling of, let's explore what this bridge has to offer. There doesn't feel to be any sense of strain in the body, but lower core strength is in place and upper core strength. In addition, I want to point out that the joints of the arms and wrists and shoulders are pliable. There's nothing locked down here. Very, very, very lovely experience inside. It's a feeling of being lifted into space. A couple more breaths in and out. Renewing my core strength to return, rolling the pubic bone to the navel, lowering the pelvis back and down, lengthens the low back, and then coming right back into pelvic tilts. A beautiful journey. So Setu Bandhasana, the bridge, is a very, very satisfying asana when we're not locked down inside, when there's that freedom of movement. It feels like a bamboo bridge. It's supple, it's pliable, it's stable, but it's not rigid, it's not bolted, it's not welded in place. I'll be finishing up the asana series with 2 on my back in the supine position. And these are not classical asanas. I call one of them baby sticks. It's sort of a variation of the happy baby position that you can really only do with the sticks. And the other one I call baby long legs, and I think you'll see why. In this position, the sticks go behind the back of the knees, and I widen my hands and widen my knees, and I make sure that the Sky Styx are not behind the back of the knee joint, but they're actually at the very bottom of the hamstring, the insertion of the hamstring. So when I now pull the stick to my chest, I'm not cramping anything behind the delicate membranes of the back of the knee joint. So this is a really, really wonderful movement. As I lengthen my arms and slide them towards my knees, the knees drop far away from me. And then widening my hands and pulling the stick firmly towards my chest completely stretches out my low back and gives a nice compression inside the hip joints to complement all the stretching of the hip joints that we did earlier. Combined with the breath, it goes like this. Exhaling, hands go wide, knees are wide, pulling the Sky Styx firmly to my chest, and then letting the legs stretch away from the chest, sliding the hands closer to the knees, and back and forth in this lovely rhythm. Exhaling, Deep compression, really lovely stretch through the low back and the hips. Inhalation, belly expands. Knees move away, giving room for full inhalation. The next dimension of the breath, exhale, widen the hands, pull the stick to the chest, hold your breath out briefly. This creates a settling throughout the nervous system. And then when you're ready to inhale, again letting the knees move away from the chest, hands go closer to the sides of the legs, big breath in. I'm a big fan of the sounding exhalation. So there's a vocalizing, releasing sound that comes up from the bottom of the belly. I'll do 2 more of these, squeezing, holding the breath out briefly. Feels really good. And last one. So that gives a wonderful stretch across the low back. Next movement is I'm circling the ends of the sticks. And as I circle the ends of the sticks, I'm rolling from left to right across my mid, upper, and lower back. Circling the ends of the sticks, my sense is that my pelvis is just going along for a ride, kind of like a gyroscope here. The hip joints, the sacral joints, all these places in the pelvis are getting a wonderful rotational stretch. And of course, reversing direction. So the arms are directing and supporting the movement. The legs and pelvis are going along for the ride, getting a lot of passive release. Coming back to neutral, next movement, stretching my right hand all the way out to the end of the stick, sliding my left hand in, pulling the right side of the stick towards my right shoulder, obviously compresses the right side of my torso, stretching the left side, and turning my head to face the stick as it comes towards me. Squeeze the breath out. Inhale back to neutral. My right hand slides towards the leg. My left hand slides away from the leg, pulling the stick in vigorously to my left side, turning my face to the left, squeeze the breath out, and then back to neutral. We'll go back and forth here a few times. I feel a deep release through the rotators of the hips, through the side muscles of the torso, through the inner groins, and across the neck and shoulders as well. A couple more of these. I'm going to hold the breath out briefly. And back to neutral. Next movement from here is I feed the stick through over to the left. Right side of the stick touches the side of my leg. Rotating my entire torso to the right, my knees slide down the stick and my lower hand firmly anchors the stick to the ground. My upper hand takes hold of the stick at my arm's length and pulls my thighs towards my chest. Again, a wonderful deep compression and opening across the hip joint. So here's this movement, exhaling. Inhaling. Exhaling. The key to this is the lower hand firmly anchoring the foot of the stick so the length of the stick can act as a lever. And holding the breath out briefly. Inhale to neutral, recenter, feed the stick over to my right, and here we go, opposite side. Holding the breath out. And coming back to neutral. Last movement, the hands come between the knees, and now the knuckles are facing towards me, the palms facing away. And from here, pulling the stick vigorously towards the chest. A nice complementary movement. Last movement in this series is to bring the stick across the arches of the feet. Lengthen the legs all the way out to the sides. As always, turning the palms of the hands up. And now from here, drawing the stick towards the chest, pressing out through the heels to lengthen through the hamstrings and the sciatic nerve, bringing my hands wide so I have space across the chest, bringing the shoulder blades lightly towards the spine and down. A wonderful, easy opening stretch for the whole core of the body as well as the legs. In this position here, there's lots of interesting movements to help bring secondary opening into the joints of the body. I can rock the torso from side to side, pivot the feet forward and back. It's a very light, easy movement. You can see I'm just holding the stick with one finger, but the presence of the stick gives a whole new kind of support and opening for the legs. Last movement here, bringing the foot of the stick all the way down to the ground and anchoring it. The upper hand going to the upper foot, core strength in place, alignment through the back body, pressing out through my heel, drawing the toes towards my face, and with this upper hand, a magnificent stretch through the hamstring, the sciatic. And I can dial it in very, very precisely. I don't have to overstretch or strain any of the muscles. I could very, very precisely move this and get exactly where I want the stretch to be. Bending the knee at the end is a nice complement to this. Huge sense of release all across the pelvic floor, the root of the groins. And then we'll go to the opposite side. And finally coming back to neutral. Big breath in. Big breath out. So that brings this series into completion. I hope you feel like your body can benefit from this, that there is a renewed sense of body awareness, of appreciation for the experience that your body brings you, and a deeper renewed enthusiasm and inspiration for using this amazing, precious human life through this incredible instrument of the body that we have to enhance your own well-being in daily life and be able to extend that out to others. Thank you for joining me for this video. Please take a look at our website, skystyx.com, and would love to hear from you. Namaste.